What's going on YouTube? Welcome back to this week's video. Today I'm going to be showing you how I made this base cabinet that has a rollout storage bin. Let's get into the video. So the steps you just saw me do is I cut two of our side panel pieces here, 14 inches in depth. And then I cut the backing piece for this base cabinet, which ended up being 30.5 inches wide, because when you factor in the sides, that brings us to a 32-inch wide base cabinet. Now, obviously, these are 48 inches tall right now, so we need to rip those down to the correct height, which is gonna be 36 inches, so we'll do that. So we actually ripped our panels to 35.25 inch, because with the 3/4 inch top, that'll put us at our 36 inches that we need. So I misspoke in the last clip, but now what we're gonna do is take our back panel piece here, and we are gonna put some pocket holes in this. Right, you can see here we have a mock-up of our base cabinet. The next thing I'm gonna be doing is cutting in the two shelves like I was saying. And all we're gonna do there is cut these at 13.25 inch deep, and then these are gonna be 30.5 inches wide, just like our back panel piece. So let's get to it. All right, so our shelves are now cut to width and to length. You saw me use my miter saw for the first time. Pew, pew. That's my celebration for using my miter saw. So I already kind of mocked them up. They fit in perfect. So the next thing I'm gonna do is cut some brackets for the top of the base cabinet. And that's going to be A, to help give it more structure and support, obviously, and then B, that's how I'm actually going to tie in the countertop from bottoms up. Shout out Trey Song. And yeah, so that's what we're going to do next. And I'll probably just use the leftover material I have and just rip it into a couple inch strips, and then we'll get those in as well. So let's get to ripping. Since the last clip, I picked up the base cabinet once I was done assembling it, and it fell apart. And I got really upset, but then I realized what the issue was. The issue was that on my actual, where is it? Craig jig bit that makes the pocket holes, right? This actually ended up shifting up as I kept doing the pocket holes, and I didn't even notice. And it ended up being at the 1/2 inch mark right there instead of 3/4. So the pocket holes themselves weren't deep enough, so when I used the 1¼ inch screws, they weren't actually securing into the wood. So it was super flimsy, obviously, since it fell apart. So what I did is I buffed it up a bit, and I added 2 holes, one at the top, one at the bottom, and then I made sure I redid every single pocket hole for all of the pieces to the correct 3/4 inch depth. So that's all been done, that's all been corrected. This is now secured and in place and, you know, not falling apart. So what we need to do now is get our shelves pocket holed, and then we're gonna put them where we need them to be. Everything is now pocket holed into place. This thing is coming along pretty nicely. The next thing we're gonna do is focus on making our bottom rollout bin. So we're gonna have to cut some more plywood. In the last clip, what I ended up doing was ripping down our front and back panels to 11.75 inch tall. Same thing with our side panels here, because luckily when you plan ahead like I do, just kidding, this worked out perfectly on accident, but the scrap cutoffs I had from the original rips on these is plenty. Oh man, is plenty of material I need to make these cuts. We're cutting these to be 11 and 1/16 deep. So we're gonna make those cuts right now on the miter saw, and then we're gonna get this bad boy assembled with some pocket holes. All right, so we have the box all assembled now. Flick of the wrist, that's off. I definitely still recommend using a parallel clamp or some type of clamp that can hold everything together, because when you're using your corner clamp, I only used it on the top side, and then I would use my parallel clamp for the middle and bottom holes. But I definitely recommend using that, because when obviously you're only using the top, you're only getting that pressure there. So to keep everything square and tight with the other pieces, I recommend using that clamp to keep you nice and snug. But now our bin is done, and the next thing we have to do is measure the width and the length of the bottom of this bin. As you can see, we got the panel cut and mocked up, and we're just gonna use some Type-On premium wood glue, my brad nailer with 1 1/4 inch nails, and secure this bad boy into place. All right, so we have the wheels now secured. In terms of the spacing of the wheels, all I simply did was rotate the casters around to make sure that at no point would it be over the edge of the box, because if that's the case, then there's a high chance it runs into the side of the cabinet walls or the actual face, drawer face that's going to be going on the front of this, which is actually what our next step is. We're going to take this measurement from the floor to the bottom right here, get that measurement, and then cut that in. The drawer face is now done. I just simply used the circular saw like I have been all video, and then thankfully where we chipped out a little bit here on the pine is actually where I wanted to do just like a drawer pull, just kind of like a little indent so that you can reach your hand in and pull everything out, because the client doesn't want it protruding. They want it to be one like distinct unit. So yeah, the next step, obviously you see I did some slight mock-ups right here of where I want to cut, and I'll probably go like 1 inch or 2 down, and I'm probably gonna also have to cut the drawer bin itself, because obviously you don't want to, you know, touch the drawer bin every time you pull out the drawer. So that'll be our next step. So as you saw in the last clip, I simply cut out the pattern of the drawer pull that I want. And as you can see, when we match up the drawer face to the actual bin, there's this much of the actual bin that's exposed, and we don't want that. Obviously we want a clean grab. So I traced the outline right there, bumps and all. And I'm gonna cut both of these. Well, obviously I already cut this one. Once I finish cutting this one out, I then plan to take my router, and then I'm just gonna clean up both the edges real nice and do a round over bit on the front drawer face. Ugh. You guys get what I'm saying. It's hot out. I can't think straight. I'm not talking right, but let's get back to work. I worked with my router, got everything nice and trim and flush and smooth. I did a very slight round over bevel on the front face here and along the sides. So now what we're gonna do, obviously I have my clamps in place here to hold it in, and I'm just simply gonna take some random screws and drill about 3 or 4 in there to hold this face frame onto the actual bin. All right, and as you can see, we have our drawer face on there now. So this part of the project is officially done. Although my floor is very crooked, you can still see that this rolls relatively smooth for being on such an uneven, unpaved surface. The next step I have in store is to plug these pocket holes up here. And for that, I'm gonna just use the Craig wood plugs that come with their kits and some wood glue. So I'm gonna do that. And then we're gonna cut the countertop. I took off the top rail in the back so I could get my Japanese saw blade in there to cut the shims to flat, and they're very well hidden now. So once it's time, I'm gonna sand that, get that nice and flush in there, and then we secured the top, put in some wood filler anywhere we needed it, and then we'll be ready to sand it all down. We're gonna add some, wait, I lied. We're gonna do edge banding, then sand it all down, and then we, excuse me, should be ready to paint. So you'll be seeing that next. Just like that, we have everything on the front, the sides, and the back all edge banded. Now, excuse me, this was my first time edge banding, and it was a little bit of a struggle in terms of getting the strips to the correct width of the plywood. I got them as close as I possibly can. And then what I'm gonna do next, I'm gonna let this kind of like dry overnight. And then I'm gonna sand everything down so it's all nice and flush. And then we're gonna be ready to paint this bad boy. And just like that, we are done spraying. That is my first time using an HVLP sprayer. Still working out the kinks of everything, so I didn't really film it. But I'm happy with the results. This looks great. And that's the end of this project, really. I hope you guys enjoyed watching the video. Please leave a comment down below. What do you think? Did you try this yourself? Let me know down below. Please like the video, subscribe to my channel, turn on the notification bells. Try to do new videos once a week on Tuesdays. And thank you so much for watching. Have a great day. God bless.